Hi, this is Russell with DieselGiant.com. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the voltage regulator in the back of your alternator on your Volkswagen car. Now, being that I specialize in diesel cars and trucks, we're going to be working on a 1998 Jetta Tdi. Now, the problem with this car is, let me show you. As you can see, it's only putting out 11.8 volts. Now, this car should regularly be charging between 13.5 to 14.2 volts. We have 316,767 miles on this car. The A3 body Jettas roll over at $299. So what do we do about this? Well, most people would say, oh, we got to have an alternator. Well, not necessarily so. Even though this car has high mileage, it's got a very, very durable Bosch alternator on it. And usually what you can do is replace the voltage regulator that's in the back of the alternator. Okay, here we are in the engine compartment. This is your alternator right here. This is the back of the alternator. On the new styles, it had this plastic cover. And inside this cover is your voltage regulator. Now, this looks like it's kind of tight in here, and it is, but what we're going to do, there's a harness, wiring harness that runs here, runs back, and terminates right here. We're going to be removing that. There's a clip, which you probably can't see, and right below that, almost about 7 o'clock, that we're going to pull out. Now, there's some numbers on the back of your alternator. This is a 120 amp alternator. If you've got a gas Volkswagen, yours may be maybe 90 amps. It could even be 70 amps, depending on the model. Now, I do have to emphasize, please remove the negative battery cable off of your battery. That wire right there has battery voltage on it. So when we take it off, it's going to be hot if we don't remove the negative terminal off the battery. There is a small bolt and clamp assembly right there. That's an 8mm. That should be a 13mm. I've removed the harness. I've taken the wire, the main battery wire, loose in the back, and there's these little tabs right here that you flick up. Now, unfortunately, this will come out almost all the way, and I was going to take it and just slide it out that way, but as you can see from the clearance there's just not enough room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two bolts, I'm going to loosen them here, and then there's one down below, and I'm going to pivot the alternator back, which should give me enough room to slide that black plastic piece out. And what we'll be using for this is a 13mm wrench. I'm going to loosen this one. I'm going to loosen the one down here. Now, you do have to remove the belt tension by just taking a long screwdriver and moving that back and sliding the belt off. Okay, so what I've done so far is I've removed the top bolt that was here, and I've loosened the bottom alternator bolt. I've got my pry bar here, and I'm going to very gently just rotate the alternator so I can get some more clearance. Alright, so let me show you what I ended up having to do. I had to go ahead and remove both bolts. And to remove the bottom bolt, you've got to, there's a small Allen bolt in the center of your pulley tensioner. just removed that. I loosened this bolt right here so I'd have a little bit of clearance here. I didn't bother with the other bolt. I was able to swing my my pulley tensioner around, and then was able to take my top bolt or bottom bolt out, and I pried on it until it came out. Okay, I want to give you guys a little update of what I figured out to help you. As you notice, the alternator's not in there anymore, and I did not have to disconnect the air conditioning line. What I did was I disconnected the clamp that goes to the AC hose. It was right here. Obviously I took the air box out, which was very easy, and I was able to slide the alternator right out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice and keep the alternator, replace the voltage regulator, and I'm going to have to replace my clutch pulley on the front, which I'm going to show you how to do in a minute, because that's bad. I found out that was bad after examining it. So if this alternator lasts a year, it could last another 5 years. I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and just replace these parts and put it back in service. So to remove the back cover, again, there's 3 tiny Phillips screws that I've already removed or attempted to remove while it was in the car. There's 3 tabs. You just click the tabs up like that, and from the body, and it just slides straight back. This hole right here goes on the battery stud here. Now, the voltage regulator is right here. It's removed by 2 Phillips screws. Now these voltage regulators run anywhere from $60 to $80. So here's the old voltage regulator. You can see the brushes are just about worn down to nothing. Let me show you the brand new one. This is an OEM Bosch, and you're going to be surprised at the difference in the brush height. Okay. So the easiest way to do this, and you want to also, while you're doing this, let me go and the shaft right here on mine. Obviously, this alternator's got 317,000 miles, so there's a little wear here. And the reason I had initially wanted to go ahead and replace the alternator, I've got a little bit of bearing noise, as to be expected, but there's no play in the shaft. It's tight. And had this voltage regulator not gone out, it'd still be in service in the car. So, and there's two metal contacts right here. You just want to make sure there's nothing on there, and they contact the corresponding 2 metal contacts here on the voltage regulator. So basically, you just slide this down like this. Now, again, make sure this is not turned this way. All right, it would fit this way, but it's useless because it's not hitting the contact. So it goes like this, and there's a metal contact on the on this side. So you got to make sure that it's just look at your old one and you'll see. Just snug it down. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put the back cover back on the alternator again. Make sure that the metal sleeved hole goes over the battery terminal in the back of the alternator. These can be a little bit tight. There's also a cutout. Let me show you. There's a cutout right here that goes over the connector plug-in, so make sure that that all meshes properly. So that cover's on. Now, that part's taken care of. Let me show you the next part of this project. This is a clutched pulley, or what they call a declutching pulley or a ratcheting pulley. This one is seized up, which I didn't know before I pulled the alternator out, and this needs to be replaced. In a nutshell, basically the purpose for this is to keep the belt running a little bit smoother. You can go on YouTube and type in declutching pulley, alternator pulley, and see the advantages of it. Some people replace these with a solid pulley. That's not really a good idea. It does increase your belt life. It also may increase some component life. I'm sure there's some other advantages to having that on there, or they wouldn't have put that on there. Now, being that this is an A3, it uses a different pulley than the A4s. It's slightly different. Your brand new pulley, I'll get this out and show you, comes with the pulley and the cap. This cap just goes right on there. Now, let me explain how this works. There is a serrated area inside the pulley, which I hope you can see on the camera. I believe it's 32 or 33 spline. And this just screws onto the shaft of the alternator. Now, the way that you get a normal pulley off, if you've probably seen, is you take the nut and it comes off while holding the shaft. But in this instance, this shaft has either a Torx or a triple square bit, depending on your alternator, that you have to use in conjunction with the serrated bit to remove the pulley. You can't remove it any other way. Don't try to use channel locks. These are usually extremely tight. Being in the South, we don't have any rust. This pulley's been on here since 1998. It's the factory one. And a lot of times if you're in the Rust Belt or you're out where they've used a lot of salt and stuff on the street during the winter, this pulley's probably going to be even harder to get off. But the way that this works is I'm going to pinch the ends, simulating that this was on the alternator shaft. The pulley freewheels this way. This is the direction of rotation, so the shaft and the pulley would be locked. When the car stops, sometimes there'll be some backwards motion because a diesel engine stops extremely quickly due to compression. It'll ratchet back